So I think the biggest problem with Gen AI, or the biggest threat that it poses to employer branding, is the reliance that we could start putting on it. As in, it starts kind of, we start getting it to do the vast majority of the tasks that we need it to do. But, we rely on it potentially at such a heavy level that, it really is starting to affect the quality that's coming through the other end, because there's not enough real human input going into the process.
It's soulless, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. But I'm an advocate for it, a huge advocate for it. Absolutely needs to be used, especially if you want a scalable employer brand strategy. Like, it takes away so much of the workload of so many tasks. But I think the biggest threat is that you become so heavily reliant on it that it starts running off, doing its own thing, going off in the wrong direction, which could potentially set you back quite drastically if you haven't got it on a leash. So I think use it, absolutely use it, leverage it, get as much value from it as possible, but just make sure you've got a leash on it and you're in control of it. It's not in control of you.
Yeah, because you can't fake, I've said it before, you can't fake it to make it in employer branding. If you lean on AI in the wrong way, then it's just that authenticity is going to take a massive hit in the chops, definitely. I think there's I remember speaking to Matt Alder, and of course, about technology and talent acquisition in HR, etc. And, he said about finding the right place for humans and finding the right place for technology in the process. Yeah. So actually, you can use technology to make those heavy lifting elements a lot easier.
Yeah.
Then, like, for example, turning a video into a blog post, for example, then actually you're going to free up time to be more creative and be more strategic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there's also that thing about personal branding as well, and employee advocacy. It places even more importance on that, because if all of a sudden we have a sector is becoming more proficient with AI, then there is more employer brand content being put out there.
Yeah.
And that differentiation is really tough to put out there. And there are issues with vanilla brands, aren't there? So personal branding and employee advocacy gives that opportunity to really show that differentiation while using AI to make certain steps in the process a lot less laborious, which frees up time for you to be more creative and be more strategic and create more authentic content.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just making sure that we are in charge of the process. Gen AI isn't in charge of the process. I think that's the key thing. Like, we're using that to enable us to do more at scale, but that isn't the nucleus of the entire thing. I think that's the important thing for me. But yeah, on the advocacy piece, I think that's the biggest one for me, especially moving into next year. It gets more people involved. It makes sure the conversation is at the fore in so many different teams in the business. And it doesn't. I think so many employer brand teams are so often very, very small, often a team of one. What you're doing by default is you're creating this much, much larger virtual team where so much more is possible. And that's what I like most about the advocacy is not a new thing, but leveraging it, for scalable employer branding is still not done in many companies very well. And I think moving into next year, that would be, seeing many more companies adopting an advocacy program of some description would be so welcome, I think, wouldn't it?
Definitely. Well, in business, there's lots of talk about, having people sitting in the right seats. So technology is there as well in terms of technology sitting in the right seat. And surely it's going to mean good things, I think, for employer branding if it's done in the right way.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. That's a nice little bonus bit.